that I'm blessed. There's a few L's and millions, so turn that loss to a...
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Father Alchemist. Today we have somebody that I'm meeting for the first time, but I feel like I've known her forever, and we connected and kind of hit it off right off the bat. But Elise LoSasso, did I say that right?
You didn't butcher it at all. Yeah,
I didn't? Okay. I was going to say lasso, but then
let's
that wouldn't have gone over. Yeah, that wouldn't have gone over too well.
LoSasso is like the worst thing I could ever hear.
LoSasso. So number 7 in sales for Denver, Colorado. Number 68. Number 7 for Denver, number 68 for Colorado, number 1,000 nationally. She's been highlighted in too many magazines to mention: Vogue, Vanity Fair, 5280 magazine. She is now a coach as of about a year ago.
About 6 months ago.
6 months ago. Yeah. She's now coaching other real estate agents. What else? Number 1 social media influencer in Denver.
Thank you. Yeah, number 1 in Denver, and then it just got award number 7 in North America, whatever the North America award means. But that's been a really big honor just because I work my ass off at it. So, and I have so much fun with it. I have really bad social anxiety. So being able to, it's pretty bad. So like the fact that I could still sit behind a camera and not have to and I hate fucking small talk. Like, don't make me rub elbows with people. Like, I just want to rip my eyeballs out. So being able to sit behind a camera and still cast a wide net and promote myself to thousands is like the best way to do it for me.
I feel like maybe a lot of people that are uncomfortable being on camera or that are uncomfortable socially, they do really well with it. Like your content's amazing.
Thank you.
And one thing I got to say about Elise too, guys, like if you're looking for a mentor, looking for a coach, somebody in real estate where it's like, who should I follow and pay attention to? I've worked with a lot of agents, and I'll tell you, the way that she has made me feel, like even though I'm not a client, just making me feel like I'm the only person there, the only person that matters, the way that the speed of her communication, like just, it's impressive, but it's also no wonder she's a top producer. 50 million in sales in 2024.
Yeah, about
50 million in sales in 20. So, and you're just getting going. I mean, that's
the goal. Yeah. And I think, I really appreciate all that, by the way. Thanks. Yeah. That was very nice. And you too, by the way. I did some digging on you.
Did you?
A little bit.
Let's hear it.
A little bit. Well, I mean, obviously you created quite the business for yourself. And I mean, all these agents are put in front of lenders constantly, but I think it's really, our business is about relationships, but it's like, who the fuck you connect with, right?
For sure.
Can I say fuck on this podcast?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Yeah.
Please do.
So I love the way that you're high energy. I really appreciate the speed of your communication. I look forward to working together, so that'll be great. But more than that, it's just kind of how you handle your business in a different way. Like it's just, we go get a little bit against the grain, right? And thank God, because I'm just so sick of the same old bullshit. But yeah, so I've been able to kind of launch myself into this career, and I'm just so thankful that I wake up loving what I do. Like I still run to the computer. They say don't check your phone right away, don't check, and I'm like, no, fuck that. Like I can't wait to work. So that's what I get really stoked for.
For those that don't really know who you are, tell us a little bit about this show's about entrepreneurship. It's about mental health. Yeah. So I kind of want to touch on some of that a little bit because I know we both experienced some setbacks and challenges and frustrations in our career, but
quite the story. So I was always a big athlete and went to a really big high school, into Cherry Creek High School here in Colorado. And there was 1,000 class, third generation Denver native, very big Italian family, just have a very big rooted community, right? And so Creek was 1,000 kids per class, very large, a lot of pressure there to be top athlete, top student, things like that. I was never... I consider myself to be pretty intelligent, but I was never your bookworm. Like I always wanted to do something a little bit more street smart. So I kind of followed the sheep, and because that's all I knew. I went to CU Boulder, and I ended up dropping out. Got tied up with the wrong people, lots of drugs and alcohol. By the time I was 20,
did you drop out because of drugs and alcohol?
Yep. I was not going to class. At that point, I was actually probably dealing drugs. So probably shouldn't say that on the microphone, but that's happening. Yeah. So lots of them.
You should say it. Listen, let me just pause for a second. Yeah. Guys, I want you to hear this because I think that in this industry, we sometimes can idolize people or there's a lot of people to look up to, a lot of people with impressive results, but sometimes we never see behind the curtain. And I think that's the problem is we have to be able to connect with people, and people need to realize like we're not just real estate or mortgage robots. Like we're human beings. We care about people. Probably, for those of us that have struggled with addiction, maybe care about people more than others, because that's really what we're craving. We're craving connection.
Yeah, and like nurturing, and So thanks for that. And I'm an open book with my story mainly. I mean, I'm one of those ADHDers too, where it's like all of a sudden I tell everybody my whole life. They'll pick them up for a showing and they've just met me, and within 30 minutes they're like, "Wow, so you went to jail?" I'm like, yeah, no, So I dropped out of CU Boulder, came home with a pretty bad drug addiction in my early 20s. It's a battle throughout my entire life. It's one of those things that you have to maintain, whatever balance looks like for you. I hate that word, by the way. Like, I can't stand the word balance. I don't think it really exists. I think if your definition of what it is to succeed, and if that means you're dabbling in things here and there and you're working, that's fine. But only you know like what you're suffering. And you and I get that, right? You only know how hard it is at night or in the morning, and you know like what's wrong, and you know that you're just fucking lying to yourself at some point. So, I've struggled with that my whole life. It's just been something that I always feel less than, insecure. And a lot of it, I lost a lot of people around me. People stopped answering the phone. It was just a really tough time in my 20s, to be honest with you. And so lots of failed toxic relationships. But because of that, I'm drawn to the narcissistic male. So I am straight. I've been asked that lately. I am straight. I don't know why that's come up lately, but it is. So I was engaged to somebody, and it was a very push-pull, but I was raised at the Italian culture of the old school housewife, which I love, by the way. I love being a housewife, but I also believe in women, female empowerment. And so he was very Southern, and it was like, this is how you're going to do it. This is how we're going to do it. And I was like, fine, but he had the power, right? And he had the money. And so when I realized just how sick of a relationship it was, and then I wasn't doing anything with my life, it just kind of sitting there, I was like, this can't be it. I remember sitting on the floor of this like beautiful closet in Cherry Creek North, which is a high-end community here, right? And I was just sobbing. And the next day I was calling off the wedding, and it was more like he was like, he was in agreement, but it was like it wasn't going to go down without a fight. Like, I'll teach you to leave me kind of a thing, right? This man spent days creating pretty much an invoice of everything that he had ever purchased me, or like what he did for me. I mean, if he had spent any of that time in our relationship as he did writing out that piece of paper, and nothing makes me work harder than saying, fucking watch this, and I gave him the middle finger. But I really he took the car, everything from me. Like, so it was, I moved in with a girlfriend. Me and my cat started over at 30.
Was the cat your girlfriend?
The cat was not my girlfriend.
Oh, okay.
Nick Cat Bello.
In addition to your
In addition to.
Okay.
So Taryn Elliott, shout out to her always. She was the one girlfriend who was really like, come stay with me. Like, let's get you back on your feet. Figure this out. Because I was in a bad place again, right? And in my eyes, this was a different way of using drugs and money and all of that. Because like Boulder was a very dark place at that time. And then this was like, oh, well, we're around successful people. Like, this is just what it is. And it just sucked. So
I feel like a lot of successful people, the thing that's encouraged their success has been having a chip on their shoulder. Yeah. Right? Like, even if you've watched, what's that one with Michael Jordan, The Last Dance, or whatever. Yeah. He talks about how when he was really involved in basketball, it was always about proving his dad wrong. And I remember hearing that, thinking to myself, like, that's exactly the way it was with my mom. Yep. I had a dad that was very entrepreneurial, very much, I dropped out of college as well. Yeah. And I remember I called my mom and dad, two totally different conversations. My dad's like, well, Derek, I know anything you put your mind to, you can do. Yeah. My mom's like, what are you thinking? It was really like, you're never going to amount to anything. It was a hard conversation to have, but I remember hearing that and thinking, like, I'll show you. It is where it started. Yeah, I know. That's a lot. That's awesome. That look at you now. And the same thing. My dad is an OBGYN. He had a very beautiful practice here. I love my father so much. I also love my mother. My father was always someone who said, "Don't let this define you. Keep going." And my mom was like, "Don't let anybody know about this. Nobody can know about this. And people who do drugs are losers." So it was always me trying to prove myself to that. So anyway, I had $1,000 to my name and started handing out Santiago's breakfast burritos. Back in the day were like $1.50. Went and bought $250 worth of Santiago's breakfast burritos, dressed up, snuck into parking garages in Cherry Creek North. Who'd you hand them out to?
People driving to work who were renting of high-end apartments. with my card taped to them.
Before you were in real estate?
Like I had just gotten licensed.
And
I had seriously like $1,000 left. And I didn't know what I was getting. I was like, this is it. Like, this is do or die at this point. Dude, so it's fucking freezing. And I've been like, I'm like faking it till you make it. And anybody who says that's not a thing, it fucking is a thing. Like, what do you do when you're starting? No one's going to hire you if you haven't done a deal yet. Right. So they're like, who are you? Like, I was like, oh, well, I just, I've been doing real estate for a while, but I'm now in the Cherry Creek area. I'm just handing you breakfast. Here's my card. And I landed my first 2 deals and I hit the floor and I sobbed. I just fucking sobbed because my first commission was $4,000. And to me, that was like $1 million. And it's still, I'll never forget it. And I was able to help Taryn like get the house clean and order food. And like, it just was this beautiful thing. And then that's all she wrote. It just hit my momentum. And I was like, let's go.
Wait, Taryn is the girlfriend?
Mm-hmm.
You helped her buy a house?
No. So it's funny. So I moved in with her after I called off that wedding.
Okay.
And then, she wasn't charging me rent or anything. It was just like, she was like, you can do this, let's go. And she was very inspiring. She was one of the youngest partners at Polsinelli Law Firm. She did, just badass, an intellectual property attorney. Beautiful home. Like nobody in their early 30s was living like Taryn was. And I was just really lucky I was spoiled. But more than that, I had that friendship. Like to this day, we are do or die. And it was really, 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 really meaningful to me that she believed in me. And so, I sold that house for her, actually. And then before I sold that house for her, I had eventually made enough money and moved out and had an apartment in City Park. And then a house across the street from her came up for sale. And I was like, I want to go back to Cherry Street in New Hills. And so I bought the house across the street from her and I redid it. And then we were neighbors for a while. And that was like a really beautiful full circle.
How long in the business were you before you bought that house?
3 years.
Okay.
3 years. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think I did about 10 to 11 million my first year. And I didn't know, by the way, like I didn't know what the good numbers were. Like I never paid attention to any of that. And then all of a sudden you're getting like attention for your success. And then that's kind of what sucks. Now I'm all about it because I'm so competitive. I'm like, what were my numbers this month? Right. But like in the first 3 years, I was like, oh, is that good? Like I just had I didn't care. I just was so happy. I loved what I was doing. I was healthy. I paid the bills. I was in love. And like I had like a life around me that I really, really, really loved. And real estate has brought that freedom to me.
And also you were broke, right?
Oh God, so broke.
And there wasn't a plan B. It was just, I've got to make this work and figure out a way to have success in this industry. So you hand out breakfast burritos, you get 2 clients from it. And then you see that paycheck and you're like, holy shit. Like, what if I did 4 of these every month? Or
right.
What if the commission was bigger? And
I think a lot of agents just don't know, like, well, what do I do? They almost get debilitated by the fear. Like, they don't know what to do. Like, there's so many avenues to take, and you're throwing there, all the fucking noise is at you, right? Like, do this, do that, do this, that. It's like, what works for you might not work for me, vice versa. But I just needed to get food on the table. I just needed to put food on the table.
So I know you still work a lot. You don't sleep much.
At all.
At least what you
Barely.
told me. You don't
I don't sleep.
But in the beginning, I was just teaching a class at Keller Williams before I came here today.
Oh, nice.
And it was a lot of new agents, some people that had experience with some production. But, I think that a lot of people try to get into this industry and kind of dip their toe in it, or, they sort of take this methodical approach where like everything's got to be perfect and then I'll go do it. And that just wasn't my experience. Same thing with me. I was living with an addiction. I was 3 months behind in rent. This was in Golden, Colorado, 14 years ago when I came here. I was literally driving every other day to the Safeway in Golden to like dump out my change in the Coinstar, just so I could eat. I was driving it was like a 1972 Volvo that I got from my parents, but I had success in California. I lost everything, right? I was millions of dollars in personal debt. I had 8 foreclosures, and this was all in the mortgage business. But now I'm here and I have to rebuild. And I think there's nothing better than your back up against the wall where you have to figure it out and you're almost willing to do anything.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like you're just willing to make it happen. And so many people that I meet that have seen success, they have some kind of chip on their shoulder or some drive that just makes them go out and not think about this perfect balance that everybody wants. And it's like, dude, fucking work your ass off 24/7. If it takes you 10 years, then you'll have some balance because you'll be worth millions of dollars.
Yep, that's very true. It's very true. And I think for us, it's always an extreme, right? It's always 110% of something. And
true.
It's so exhausting. And so I will say, I had a really bad relapse year of 2023. And then I was like, I can't do this anymore. Like, I'm hitting 40. I'm exhausted of this cycle, and it gets me a little emotional. And I just couldn't do it anymore. And so I started throwing myself into the actual therapy of it, because there's like, rooms of AA and CA, or like rehabs. And like, I say it this way, I didn't get to go to rehab again, because my mom was very much a mom who was like, what if you know someone there? Like, no one can know, doctor's wife. And it was just like the pressure of that was intense. And we're talking like I was pretty much homeless on a park bench in Boulder. Like, my sister walked by me on Pearl Street and didn't even recognize me. And that was a day. I was like green and like 90 pounds. What drugs take from you is everything, right? You know that. So where was I? Tangent. I lost my train of thought. Sorry.
Well, you were talking about addiction and how it had taken everything from you. 2024.
Yeah, 2024 brought the therapy. So there's this therapy work called family systems, where when you have a lineage of, like, it's not the hereditary of drugs and alcohol, it is something that you are kind of turned to because of how you were raised, right? Or like the toxicity traits in your family. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't wish this. This was harder than getting sober. This work was, I wouldn't wish this on my worst enemy. This therapy work was the most intense thing I've ever been through. And I'm coming out the other side.
Written or verbal?
What?
Written or verbal? The work?
Verbal work.
Okay.
And it is an hour and a half a week. And he is like Dr. Michael Noel. I'll shout him out because he's an amazing man and very much a mentor to me now. And I will never forget the work that he's taking me through. And I have therapy every Wednesday. I'm very much a believer in therapy, but to understand why, that was the biggest piece. Like, why was I just continuing to do all this stuff? Why was I self-sabotaging? Why was I self-deprecating? Like, why can't I just be? And so I'm coming out the other side of that to a very beautiful place this year. And that's been really cool. I tried to blow up my life. I was like, what the fuck does it all mean if I'm sitting here making millions a year or whatever you're doing? I built this beautiful house around me. I've got this beautiful husband who I thought was like the right move, just because I wanted it to look like the right move. And Stevie and I are business partners to this day, and he is amazing. He is my best friend. I have nothing bad to say about this man. We were never supposed to be married. And what does it mean when you're sitting there and you're still like, I'm not happy? I was like, fucking bomb it. And that's the only way I know how to do that, is bring drugs into it. And I wanted to, and still, I was blessed with Kelsey, who is my right hand. She wanted to come, and I was like, you can stay here. You're fine. She's the best. She would walk into that house sometimes, and I'd be in fetal position on the floor. And she's like, at one point, Kelsey went to my managing brokers. She might kill me for saying this, but she went to them and she said, I'm going to have to leave Elise. But if I do, that you guys need to know this, because I can't let her business, she's got such a beautiful business and beautiful heart. We can't let it go. And they pulled me aside, and that was like a moment of, okay, I've got to do this work somehow. And I have these people who love me so much, like this chosen family now that I didn't even know. Like, I was so mad at her at first. My ego was so bruised. And now people understand, like, Kelsey, like, whether she works for me or not, forever, or with me, partners, whatever, that girl has my heart. And like, she saved me in so many different ways. And we are so lucky to we are doing something right if we're creating this life around us. It's not about the money or the business, it's these relationships. It's actually working, And so that's what's been this beautiful part of this whole story, is I'm coming out, and my ex-husband's my best friend. My assistant is my family. My mom and I have the most amazing boundaries now, to where she knows where if those lie and it doesn't get to me. I actually support my family. My dad had a brain tumor a few years back, and so lots of things happened there, but I fully financially support my parents, and I'm very happy and lucky to do that. It's also a lot of pressure. I didn't want kids. I don't have kids, but I've got two 75-year-old children. But it's like, I would have never seen myself here. I would have never seen myself here of going through this cycle of relapsing and making all this money and loving real estate and being a part of a community, but also fucking doing it my way. Like, I am my own person now, and I don't give a fuck. Like, and my clients, it's the clients that I attract. Those are the clients that we attract. So that's kind of what I see in you. And I love that.
Thank you.
I love that so much. Yeah.
Thank you. I feel like it's a blessing and a curse, right? But if you can get to the other side of it and not have to consume drugs and alcohol, most of it in my experience is around a feeling that's unmanageable.
Yeah.
Right. And when you really think about that, it's like, man, how is it possible that I could feel a certain way and not want to deal with that,
right?
Not want to explore it, but instead escape it. But that's what we do, right? We want to escape it, not feel it. And, but really I found it's really like if you look at something like Alcoholics Anonymous,
Yeah.
right? I know it's helped a lot of people, but the only issue I have with it personally is that the issue is alcohol. They blame the issue on alcohol. And what I found with addiction for myself is it's like, that's the symptom. The drug is the symptom of it, right? It's not, it's really an obsession and compulsion. We happen to choose drugs, but it's really the way that we think, right? It's really the way that we think. And, but the flip side to that is there's some of the most intelligent people I've ever met, the most friendly people I've ever met, most passionate, most driven. So figuring out a way to get to the other side of that, if I'm being real honest, I don't know if I've ever figured out the why.
Yeah.
As much as I've tried to think about it, it's like there's a block of some kind. Did you figure it out? You figured out the why?
Yeah. I mean,
Okay.
just understand. I didn't need to understand my addiction. Like my addiction and I are best friends. So when you take that from me, though, for the first time in my life, if you were to put whatever I loved, which was a lot of things, in front of me, I could easily be like, meh, that's crazy. That is so crazy.
Yeah.
And I fucking hate it. 'Cause now you've taken my best friend from me. You've taken what I know to be like my little dark secret and my little hole whenever I need to let my hair down. And like, you've just taken that from me. I'm like, well, now what? Now what do I do for fun? Now what do I like to do? Like, now what? But understanding that why, that's what happened. The true healing. Now you look at that and you look at it like everybody else does. It's like, it's crazy. Yeah.
I think there's so much we could talk
Yeah,
about
right.
with the addiction thing.
Yeah.
I just think that, for anybody out there that is struggling with an addiction, just know,
Reach out to
like,
us.
man, you're
Yeah.
you're not alone. And like, it's something you can get through, even if you don't believe it. I remember this was when I first moved here. I'm living in Golden and I'm driving, and I very clearly to this day, I remember saying to myself out loud, I think in the car, because I probably was hallucinating or something, but I was literally like, I'm going to be dead in a couple of years. And the shittiest thing about that was like, I was okay with it at the time.
Yeah, right. You
I
don't
was
care
just
if you
like,
wake
I'm
up.
gonna die, and this is who I am. And,
Yeah.
it's what my identity was at the time. But then I look back and I'm like, fuck, man. Like, thank God I didn't die. Thank
I'm
God I
happy
didn't
you're here.
die.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, same.
Thanks. And I think it's people like us that will inspire others. And yeah, if you want to get into lending, if you want to get into real estate, great. But more than that, it's like, what fucking makes you tick? And I'm still struggling with that. Don't get me wrong. Like, I went from one addiction to the next. Like, real estate was nonstop. So now when I'm building a business a little bit underneath me and I want to start building a team, I do. That's going to be the next step here. I never thought I wanted to do that, but I do, because I am getting a little tired. But I also want to I haven't had hobbies since I was 18. I've been a drug addict workaholic since I was 18 years old. So who am I without this stuff? Like, do I like to ride horses still? I'm taking up golf lessons. I mean, I know I love to obviously shop and eat like the best of them, but like I love to travel. But what else? And so that's kind of where I'm at.
Like.
Yeah. I don't know. It's kind of a fun little place to be. I feel like a kid again a bit. And it's just a really great year so far. 2025 is my year. Yeah. I'm ready.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I'm ready.
Well, 2024 was your year too.
Ooh.
So 2025.
I mean, 2023 was actually a lot of fun. Not gonna lie, even though it wasn't. You know what I mean? Like I went for it.
But you went through the relapse in 2024 or 3?
2024. 2020, there was some dabbling in 2024. I mean, yeah, there was some darker moments, but it was mainly a lot of the therapy work to do it. So that type of dabbling was expected through it. Like, my therapist held my hand through the whole thing. It wasn't like this, like, fuck you, I'm gonna lie to you, I'm lying to you. It was more like, this is expected to clean it up. It was very interesting.
I don't really know if I want to go into this today necessarily, but so I had been struggling. I had had some relapses, and we had looked into this ibogaine treatment. For those of you that don't know it, you should look it up. It's beginning to develop momentum. It's starting to be studied more often, but initially this started out as a psychedelic in West Africa. It comes from the iboga tree, and it was given to really these kids as like a rite of passage, right? In order to become a man or a woman, right?
Interesting.
But it has a 90% efficacy rate for addiction. I want you to think about this. Now, my brother-in-law, this is where I heard it from. My brother-in-law was a alcoholic.
Yep.
He went, and at the time they only offered this treatment in Mexico. So he went down to Mexico, did this ibogaine treatment. It's about a 4 to 5 day process. he hasn't touched a sip of alcohol in a year and a half. And he's like, I don't even have a desire.
What is that? What does that 4 or 5 days look like, I guess?
So
I'm curious.
So this is a psychedelic. Okay. So it's a very, very heavy psychedelic. Day one, you're really ingesting the bark of the iboga tree, which is not the actual ibogaine, but it kind of puts you in your body. It really makes you super present. It calms you down, but it gives you like a sense of what you might experience with it. So it's sort of this like precursor to taking the actual ibogaine. I would never recommend doing it by yourself just because of what you experience. So you should have a plant medicine practitioner that's there with you the entire time. But I said, fuck it. What do I have to lose? Right? Like nothing else has really worked for good. I might as well try it. So it's just a capsule, basically, that's dosed every couple hours. Everybody's different, so some people need more than others. But I take this capsule, and I'm in my house. We have this like one of those like trippy psychedelic lights on the ceiling, some like good music playing. And I just remember 30 minutes into it, I'm like, I swear to God, that panel just looks like a tiger. Like all of a sudden there's this little element of like a visual. Which I'm just in this like full blown, like I'm watching movies and commercials. It's cartoonish. It's like a movie of me in fucking Greece, like with all the gods, and it just really bizarre, but this very highly visual. And then if you close your eyes, and I hear this is the same experience for everybody, but when you close your eyes, you see this pinpoint light off in the distance, and it's like a filing cabinet. And it's a filing cabinet of every mental image picture you've ever collected from even before you were born.
That's wild.
So imagine going through every Polaroid in a filing cabinet forever of your entire life and experience. You end up having a lot of trauma in there. So there's moments where
you're like contorting a little bit.
Yeah, there's moments like where it's like you're afraid,
Yeah.
It's intense, you're fearful. And there's moments of joy and happiness and sadness, and kind of experience all of it because you're rewatching this movie of your life.
Yeah.
But I remember like after that opening my eyes, and there's this, I'm in bed, there's a doorway, and then outside is like a hallway to another doorway.
Yeah.
And I literally see my ancestors, like just like I'm seeing you guys standing there looking at me and then walking down the hallway. But it's like they're fucking there.
Yeah.
So that part of the experience was 6 to 8 hours straight.
Yeah.
Which is a long fucking time, right? But the thing that's unique about it, right? If you've ever tried mushrooms, there's a psychedelic experience that can be visual, but this is also physical. And this is why you got to have somebody there with you, because have you played the game Operation? Remember that game where like, you go to get the little bone and it shocks.
At that game.
Yeah, me too. I never was fucking good at that. But that's what it was. So you would look at your body and there was like an electrical field in colors surrounding your entire body. Like they say we all have electricity running through our bodies. So that's what I'm seeing. But the thing is if you move too quickly, it's almost like you're bumping into that. And you get extremely nauseous, like you have to purge. You feel it.
It's just like ayahuasca.
I've never tried it, but I hear maybe something similar to that.
Yeah.
But anyway, so
this is cool.
It's super, super intense. After that, you're kind of in a dream state for a couple days.
Yeah, they say you don't. Yeah, taking some time off for sure. Yeah.
But ever since I did that, here's what it does. It goes into the crevices of your brain. It cleans out all the dust in there.
Yeah.
And then the electrical circuit in your body, anytime you have trauma, and that trauma, it's almost like a corrosion on the electrical board, and something triggers you, you go back to that trauma, and then you go take drugs or you go take your whatever, you do something to escape it. So it's like a hard reset on your entire electrical system. So that's gone, your brain's clean, and you have no more of these mental image pictures. So instead of having like an association to the feeling like you would, like, oh, if I smoke a cigarette, I'm going to relax. This is what a smoker might say, right? Or if I take this drug, I'm going to feel this way, and that's going to feel good, so I'm going to take it. This was a little different because now that's gone. So you don't have the ability. And I was like, dude, this is fucking weird. I tried to think about my drug of choice, and it's like it
didn't matter.
wasn't even there. There
Yeah.
was no connection to it. So then your brain diverts and it's like, well, that would be stupid. And you kind of redirect and now you're on this other path.
Yeah.
So it's worked for me so
I
far.
love
And
that.
I just think more people
Good for
need to
you.
try
What's it called?
something.
What was it called?
Ibogaine.
Ibogaine. Okay.
Ibogaine.
Interesting.
Yeah, Ibogaine.
I've never heard of it.
Anyway.
Okay. Well, I'm
So,
going to go do that now.
That's a wrap. That's a wrap. Let's go. You got any Ibogaine?
No, and I
Just joking.
think a lot of people in our positions where it's like, you've got your successful people, but they all fall in line with because they're following this blueprint that works for everybody. And then you've got people who kind of are a little bit above that in a way. And I'm not calling myself an elitist in any way, but when I'm at my healthiest, the way I look at the world and my perspective, right, it just shifts and like everything's an opportunity. And when I'm sick, that all shuts down. Mm-hmm. And so I would say for the past 2 years, I've been moving along just fine, but like I really could have probably tripled my business if I wanted to. Thank God I didn't, thank God I didn't. I wasn't ready. So here we are and the perspective's back. And like today I went to the office. I haven't been in the office in like almost 6 months. And somebody called on my listing and immediately I converted them into a buyer because my listing's under contract. But right then and there, sent them searches and now we're showing them $1.5 million homes this weekend. The confidence, the way to approach things, it all comes back. And it just feels really good to have gotten through that. And now I never thought I couldn't even sit still in my own skin going through this therapy work. I don't know. It might be something you might want to look into, I guess, just because it sounds like a similar
Actually,
upbringing.
I'd love to look into it. So
He's really great.
This class from earlier today, it was on really system, structure, and process with your business.
Yeah.
And one of the agents in the room, I said, hey, let's go around the room. What's one thing you hope to get out of the class today? And she says, honestly, I just need more confidence, right?
Yeah.
She talked about confidence and confidence is such a critical thing in this business. But, to your point, I think you have to be willing to do things that are going to make you more confident, be around confident people. And sometimes it's just about seeing the little bits of success or knowing how to delegate. Like there's this agent, she became Rookie of the Year. Now she runs a big team and she's a very close friend of mine. But when she first started, she got into the industry and there was a friend of hers. They both came from oil and gas. They both left. They both went to work for the same real estate company. She became Rookie of the Year. The other one got out of the business like a year and a half into it. And I said, what do you think makes the difference? And she goes, I realized when I was brand new, I had no idea what I was doing. I really didn't know what I was doing, but like I had to make money because I just got laid off and I had 2 kids I had to take care of. She's like, so I developed a relationship early on with a couple people. One was a lender. The other one was her managing broker, where I could just, if all I could do is figure out a way to take that conversation, whatever objection they gave me, hey, my lease isn't up for 9 months, I'm still working on my credit, I don't have money for a down payment, whatever it was, how to get them to talk to my preferred lender or get input from my managing broker. Suddenly, that lender was able to convert them where I couldn't. And then I got the experience doing the transaction because I didn't know how to convert them. And then over time, I could convert myself because I was working on so many deals, right? And I think so many people in the industry get caught up in, again, everything has to be perfect. I got to make sure I've got this perfect plan. And I don't think it's necessary. I think you just got to go.
There's no perfect plan. There's no perfect time. And I think, unfortunately, with the world that we're in too, a lot of people have the problem of comparison, right? Even I know social media is a big thing for me and people compare themselves, but I'm one of the most insecure women you'll ever meet. Hands down. Like it may not come across that way, but I mean, most people, I am. And I struggle with that on a day-to-day basis, but I'm okay admitting that. Like my vulnerability is probably one of my best qualities. And I love that. And I think that's what I strive for. I want people to be broken down to be people. Because I mean, I was just dating somebody for about 1.5 years. He's great. Didn't work out. His friends, it took me back to a trigger place. Like they made me feel so less than all the time. And I'm like, I'm living a pretty good fucking life. Like for me to still feel this way, like there's something that I'm not dealing with. That's on me, right? That like they're making me feel this way. But I'm also surrounding myself with the wrong people. And so that's a big, what you just said there is, who are you surrounding yourself with? Who, stick with the winners, but not the assholes, because there's a big difference. And there's also a very big difference in sick people and bad people. we were just sick people. We weren't bad people, right?
I love that.
So I think that that's a big part of it. And some of those people that I was around were bad people. And I'm like, what am I doing? I don't need anybody else. Like, so it just, we still slip now and then, but to love what you do. And if you're not loving what you do, you guys, if you're not liking real estate or lending, get the fuck out. You got to go do something else. If you like sales, there's so many things you could sell. But you either have this or you don't. Bottom
You
line.
could sell Santiago's breakfast burgers,
could. I mean,
Like
I should have upcharged those things. Now they're like $5.
Are they?
They're like
I haven't had one in
$4.50
a
a
long
burrito.
time, but-
I had one this morning.
We should go get
so
one
good.
after this. Now I'm hungry. So I want to touch on two things today before our time's up. I don't know what time it is, but so one is talk a little bit about whether it's a new agent, somebody that has experience. Talk a little bit about your process, what your calendar looks like, time blocking. Do you make time specifically for prospecting? How do you organize it all when you're so busy closing deals and doing transactions? How do you delegate? Just give us, we don't have enough time for every detail of it, but like tell us about your morning routine, what your day looks like typically.
Derek, like I'm an odd duck. So I don't have a routine anymore, and I do that on purpose because again, the extremist side was like, it was up at 5, it was going to Barry's for the hour, it was home, it was this protein shake, then it was this. And after a while I would break. I'm like, this is, it's not, none of that is sustainable. And it just gets fucking boring. Maybe I want to wake up in somebody else's bed at 5 a.m. I don't know. Maybe I don't want to wake up until noon. Maybe, and like that's the life that I want to create, that freedom where I don't have to keep this routine. So I don't time block. I wish I could. It's not in my makeup. So I'm like, I can't do it. But I will say the structure piece for me is I definitely do affirmations every morning. That is one thing I definitely do. Cool. And I am not religious, but I'm very spiritual. And I thank God every morning that I look at the ceiling. But I think you and I could just agree that it's just happy to be alive at some point. And more as far as like the business side. I think it's really important you don't have to be in an office, but I could isolate myself. I love my house. It's also a really beautiful like space that I've created on purpose. So it's hard for me to leave. Like these past 3 days, I just worked at home. Like I woke up and I was at home and then I go to bed. Like I didn't leave and I was fine with it. So I make sure that I'm either in the office or I'm at a coffee shop. But when I got started in this business, what got me going was the energy of other humans. So I made sure I was at a different coffee shop every day. Whether I was in Boulder, Longmont, Denver, the Springs, like driving, being around people, talking to people, networking, joining a gym was a big part of it. Then when I first got my first paycheck, I was able to join a gym again, and just being around humans is important, not other real estate agents. It wasn't, I didn't need to hear people on their phone calls. I can watch $1 Million Listing and actually get inspired. I know it's scripted, but there's a lot of shit that I love to learn. I don't need to be around agents. I need to be around the human race and know what it's like to like be with people. And like, that's a big part. I think agents are like, I'm in the office and I need to follow this person. And it's like, no, go do your own thing and start creating your own community. And I can't tell you how that built my business in my first couple of years. And like, it's really hard because it's like, you're putting yourself out there.
So talk to this. By the way, this is great to hear too, because I think to your point, so many people try to find like this perfect either individual to follow that does it a certain way where they see some success and then they tell them they got a time block and do all these things and maybe that doesn't work. It works.
Them. I think my success comes from who I am. And I really take pride in that. Like, I think that I could actually, and I think if I followed these other blueprints, I'd probably triple my business. And maybe if I did it, great. But like, I don't really.
But it just goes to show there's so many different ways to do the business.
Yes.
It doesn't have to be done one particular way.
Right. And what works for somebody might not work for the other person. Like people want to come to me for social media training and I will do one-on-one training that way. Yes. But it's like, I need to study you and study your page. It's not like you're not just going to like look at me and be like, okay, well, Elise is going to do it. And it's going to make me successful. It's like, no, are you being you? Like the authenticity is like the biggest piece. And like, I'd say if you look at pictures of me in my second and third year, I'm this like lost puppy. I look at that woman or girl and like, who is that? Right. I just wanted to be who I was following in this business and it wasn't working. Or I was kind of like, it just sucked. My clients weren't people I wanted to be around. And now my clients are fucking family. Like it's hilarious. I have a lot of masculine energy with how I work. And so I'm not really getting like the moms with 5 kids and white picket fences calling me. However, I am getting the moms who are like, fuck yeah. Like, let's go, you know, and it gets like, I that is what I want. And so I think I have a deep, deep place in my soul for like a little bit of emo, right? Like some dark music, some dark stormy days and coffee shops. And like, and so I made a lot of my time of networking, music, coffee shops, you know, making sure that I was around the art world a lot. Like that's, who are you and how can you blend in the world?
So those locations, right, is where you're meeting with your clients?
Yeah.
So talk to us a little bit about how do you weave that into the conversation?
Yeah.
Right? Because there's a skill to that.
It's such a skill. And I will say that, I mean, like I have had 2 King Supers check out people be my buyers. I've had 3 Uber drivers be my buyers or hire me to sell their homes. I just love what I do so much, but also it's dropped in every sentence, but it's not in a sales way. Like they'll be like, how you doing today? I'm like, oh, I'm exhausted. I showed a bunch of homes over the weekend. Oh, you're an agent? Yep. Boom. Or, you know, I think there's a new GM at one of my favorite restaurants. She just moved here. I was talking to her about how she's renting, you know, just talk to people. But again, I've gotten a lot better at that. But my social anxiety is dwindling now that I'm doing a lot of this healing, because a lot of the drugs that I took were always helping me sustain myself among people. But I think that's the biggest advice I could give is to realize what it is that you love, that you know that you love anyway. I'm still learning, but put that in your everyday life, because then it's going to show. Like these people could tell how much I love what I was doing, you know? And I mean, I don't care if I was shit-faced coming home from a party. I'm talking to my Uber driver. He goes, oh man, I'm going through like the worst divorce ever. I'm like, oh, that sucks. He's like, will you help me sell my house? I'm like, sure. And I thought he was kidding. He literally called me the next morning, you know? Yeah. I mean, and now like we're friends and he's like remarried and he's a private driver now. I mean, there's just so many weird things. And I also think coming from my addiction, nobody's better than the other person. Nobody. And that's why I feel too that if you're going to get into this business, don't get into it because you just want to rub elbows with millionaires or wealthy people. Like that's not what matters. And it's very unfulfilling. It really is. I like working luxury, but I like working like the first time home buyer side a lot more. Yeah. So it's fun.
There's some big egos in luxury sometimes.
There's big egos everywhere, but yes. And you know, being a woman in this business too, like I it's fun for me because I'm just kind of like, who's going to puff out their chest today, you know? And I'm like, it's just the humble part of it is let them. Everything comes back in full circle, you know? When I'm not well or I'm not in the right mindset, that's when I'm like, I need to say this, improve myself this. I mean, I was not proud of myself. 6 weeks ago, I let an agent have it, like really have it. And I was just not in a good place. I've yet to call him and apologize because I am mortified of my behavior. Even Kelsey was like...
A coworker? Like on
he was an agent on the other side.
Okay.
And I don't know him. We've never done a deal together. But I mean, I was screaming, cussing. I mean, I have a temper when I'm not well. It was bad. And I was like, you're a fucking adult. Fucking figure it out. And like, just like hung up the phone. And my assistant loves to be sassy, but she was like, that is not okay. It was like not a good place to be. And so being accountable for where you're at too is huge. And if he listens to this, he'll know who he is for sure. Cause he was like, what the fuck? You know, it was bad.
Well,
we're
listen,
all
you're
just
human,
trying.
Right? You're human. It's not like you intentionally did it, but you had a reaction to something and out it came and you're a human being. So, but you recognized it, you become aware of it. And you're like, hey, I'm going to think twice about reacting that way next time.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, I also think that I could be a lot smarter in this business too. You know, I mean, I should have a lot more money put away. I should have thought about things a little bit differently. But at the same time, I've given myself all this grace to be like, I've never been this person before. I've never made this type of money before. I've never been like, walking to the Nuggets game and somebody saying, can I have a picture with you? I follow you on Instagram. Like, what the fuck is that? That's hilarious. And I'm wasted. I was like, I was a few beers in that night. And it's just like, I've never been here before and I'm trying, but I don't want to lose my self-identity there. It's really a tough place to be, actually.
I think a lot of people in this industry struggle with, we make a lot of money, we spend a lot of money, and a lot of us struggle with like putting money away.
Yeah.
I'll never forget, this was a coach that I had in the past. It was very simple. He just says, listen, every single paycheck, before you spend anything, take 20%, invest it, never touch it. 20%, and then give some money away every single time. And that was really tough for me, right? Because my thought of giving money away, and you hear it in church, tithing, or like it's law of reciprocity and how important it is. And it's like, I get that, but listen, if I have 10 $1 bills sitting in front of me and I hand you one of them, now I only have nine 9 $1 bills. I have less than I had before. He goes, no, think of it as avocado seeds, right? If you have an avocado seed and you go plant it, what happens, right? It produces fruit forever, for a long time. And so it got me thinking differently about giving money away. But there are times where like I feel like I'm giving money just because that's what I'm told to do, kind of a thing. But it always feels different when I give it, because I feel an instinct or intuition in that moment to give it. And then I know it's coming from my heart.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't ever look at money as something that is what it is. Like, to me, it's just this very fluid thing, because there will always be more. There's been some resentment around what money. Obviously, I think a lot of people have that, but I the way I give with that is like my love language is gifts. So I love to give gifts, and people get really uncomfortable with that sometimes.
Can you bring in the pony?
Yes, I've always wanted a pony. Enter a pony. Love it.
I knew that was your love language.
Sorry, just like yelled into the mic. But yeah, no, I love buying people things, and that's how I show it. And like today, I took a bunch of agents out to a really nice lunch. Like, they're just getting started. They've never been in this restaurant before. Like, I loved that. Like, I love good food, and we were all talking, and that's what inspires me. So I think if you got that mindset of abundance, but it can be really hard. Last year's market was tough. And I got to a place where I was like, shit, I'm paying out on my divorce, and he deserves every penny, but still it was a lot. And Tuck Development is doing well, but we're still building that. There was a moment there where I was like, how am I here right now? How am I scared right now? And then once I just surrender to it, like anything else, it just kind of fades away. So pretty cool.
It's such a faith thing.
Yeah.
Right? And I think that was always hard for me to buy into for the longest time. And then, like, dude, I've gone through some really fucking dark times, like really dark times. And it's like when you go through something that you don't know if you're going to make it out of, and you make it out of it, or you make it through it to the other side of that. Yeah. It's almost this, you just know something out there's got your back, and like, you're going to everything's going to be okay no matter what. And I think having that perspective in any situation, it's going to help you make better decisions, and you're not going to be as stressed out. And guess what? Everything will eventually be okay.
It always is somehow. I mean, unless you're taking it down on purpose, right? But the people like you and I, which is why I love Addicts Alcoholics, we've seen such a bottom that like nothing really rattles us, right? I'm like, literally, I was getting people's leftovers from Cheesecake Factory in Boulder. Like, that doesn't really get much worse than that, in my opinion, until I'm like in a crack house in Lafayette and I haven't showered in 4 days. Like, and I actually didn't smoke crack. I think I tried it once, just for the public's knowledge. But this was a vacant home in Lafayette where I ended up. I was with a drug dealer, and we were dealing to a lot of Boulder businesses and owners and doctors and nurses. And this we had gotten evicted from a place on Pearl Street, and we were in this place, and no lights, no running water. And this doctor used to take his mistresses to this house. It was like, he had this really gross, dark side. But so he let us stay there. And I'm like, how does it get worse than that? There was like a hot tub out back that still had old water in it. And I remember like dunking my head in it one time. Like, these are things I don't really tell a lot of people, but it's a podcast. So sometimes I think this goes into black space, but I'm sure now the world's going to know all this, but it's fine. So it's just one of those things where I know that if a deal's falling apart, like, it's a house. I know it's people's livelihood, and I still care, but that's what makes us be able to step in and be strong and be calm.
Or in the moment when there's a massive problem.
Yeah.
Oftentimes, if you've got a real buyer and seller, you've got a great agent, you have a great lender, all the pieces are there, but there's a massive issue.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, 9 times out of 10, you end up working through it.
Oh, yeah.
Like, you end up somehow figuring out a way to still work through it and get it done. But there's a lot of drama and a lot of pointing fingers and a lot of frustration that happens in the meantime. So, hey, I want to talk about social media a little bit.
Yeah, let's jump into it.
There's a lot of people doing social media, not a lot of people doing it well. And I think, like, I love watching your shit.
Thanks.
Like,
thank you.
It's really well done.
Thank you.
I think it's just how you've positioned it. Like, you show class, you show expertise, but you show the human side to you. You can tell you're your humility in what you film. It's diverse. It's just fucking like I really enjoy it.
Thank
Seriously,
you.
it's really
It means
great.
a lot. I get really flattered when people compliment that because it is like it's my artsy side in my way. Like this is my creative outlet. I didn't mean to do this for work, but when I sold my first house or got my first buyer from Instagram, at that time it was free. I mean, it still is, but now I hire a crew, right, to do stuff. But I was like, why wouldn't I just lead with this? And I really just started to take off. But I think that's the hardest thing that agents, they're doing this because they're like, oh, this is a way to advertise myself. Well, people are exhausted of that. Like they're so tired of seeing, just closed, just sold, It's like, if they're looking or they're looking for hashtag real estate agent, like I should be on TikTok. I'm not. I think I am actually, but I don't post. So anyway, this is the new wave. This is the new search engine, right? As people are going on saying like Denver Realtor. And if you pull up a Denver agent there's one who I know of who sells about 80 million a year herself. And everything on her page is an auto post. And it is just sold. And she is amazing. I love her a lot. But if you look at her page, it's like, this isn't really inspiring. And then somebody like my page, right? Where yes, you see what I'm doing because it leads you to my website too. But also like I'm relatable and human, and right away who I am. Like you build your brand, you are your brand, which is why I teach my course is called Rebel Branding for new agents. And it's just if you are your brand. And I do think that you can go anywhere and do well, but branding yourself with the right brokerage too is very important. I had the opportunity I got offered to open Real Luxury here in Denver, and I didn't make the move. It was a hard decision. But the agency is my brand. Like that's my lifeline really. And they love me and they support me in that. And not that Real wouldn't have, it's just that little bit of luxury brand there and like kind of that edge just really, I wasn't ready to move. And plus I love Jared and Casey. I just think with social media, you've got to be ready to actually invest now because now it's a new animal. Unfortunately, like everything else, it's grown to a place where you get lost in that black hole pretty quickly and it doesn't make sense. It can actually hurt your business more than help it. And I think that people either need to know that this is what they want to do and go all in or not do it at all. You don't just like do that halfway, Does that make sense?
How much time do you spend on it?
Yeah. So your stories. I like probably every...
You're like Elon Musk. It's like you fucking run 7 companies and you're fucking sending a tweet every 2 seconds. Like, how do you have the time?
I don't know. I mean, it's like you're a little bit of a freak of nature.
But I think people want to know, like, okay, so you have a team that helps you a lot, but
so, no,
you do a lot yourself.
Here's how it goes. So I don't post anything myself. So my stories are me, which is I still get to have fun with it. So like I have my stories throughout my day. Like sometimes there'll be 1, sometimes there'll be 20.
But I don't posting those?
No, I do those. Those. My stories are me.
You do the
my stories are me. So I don't. My stories are just like me throughout the day. That's what you're following me as like the day in the life of Elise.
Yep.
My grid, the posts. So I have Valo Media, who they are no longer taking on real estate clients. I mean, it's been really fun watching them grow, but it's also really cool that they're turning that down now because you can only make so many agents creative and only build their brands. You know what I mean? There's only so many ways to make an agent have fun and do this. So, but we will meet. So Jenna is my creative. She's now an extension of me. That woman knows me inside and out. So what they will do is they like, for example, I got my brief yesterday for my March shoot. So they give me a brief and they're like, here's our ideas. Here's our thoughts for reels. Here's our thoughts for posting content. Here's the props. Here's the outfits. Here's all of it. And I'm like, cause that's how I wanted it to be. I'm like, I'm fucking paying you enough. Like, I don't want to think about this. Mm-hmm. And she'll even come over to my closet and be like, okay, this, and this. And so it's a whole thing. It's a production. We will film for 2 to 3 hours once a month. So filming's next week. And then they will provide me a grid, like an Excel spreadsheet essentially that has all the cover photos for each reel and then the captions. And then I go through and revise that or edit it as I see fit. And then boom, it's set for March. So it's a well-oiled machine at this point. It's exhausting. After those days, it is like acting in a way, I guess. Like sometimes, I mean, after shoots, I'm just like, I can't do anything. And I spoke in front of Keller Williams, like 200 people that one day. And then I went and did a content shoot and I was awful. Like my February shoot is actually it's not that great because I was so tired. And it's something that you have to invest in. But when you get to that place where, here's a perfect example. I'm at a listing appointment and they're like, so you're the Instagram realtor. I'm like, oh God. Yeah, I am, I guess. And he's like, well, so is that going to help me sell my house? And I'm like, it could. I mean, I had a 2.4 down the street from me and we had open house. It's listed everywhere. And I went and I did a story And I'm like, I'm at my open house. Come see me. This is a great house. There's this guy in Cherry Hills who follows me. They're renovating their home. They want to buy something for a few years while they renovate. He sent his wife over within 10 minutes. I had a cash offer, full price. It was on the market for 30 days because of my Instagram story. So those are the examples that work. Like if you invest enough, but you have to be willing to do it long enough. So I would say monthly hours to Instagram for the shoots, probably like 10 by the time I'm reviewing everything. And then daily, I just have fun with it. So I can't really give you a time. Or
So just throughout the day you're doing it,
Yeah.
or do you like stack it and then release it?
No, so they will do. They have like an app that will like schedule my content, but stories is me, right? So yeah.
Are you doing Are they doing copy for you as well?
As far as like the captions,
Write the
yeah,
thing.
and which is really hard because it has to sound like you. There was a moment there where people were like, "This is not Elise," you know, and then Jenna started to learn me, and so she'll write the best that she can, and I'll tweak it. I don't want to spend time on this anymore. You know, I love it, but I also want to make sure it looks perfect. I'm very particular on what goes out and how it goes out.
Yeah.
So you can imagine in 2023 what a nightmare it was for them to come. They're like, "Did you brush your hair today? Like, did you check that relapse year?" It was. They're like, "Can you get your shit together, Elise? Like, we have a job to do." I was like, "Where are we? What's happening?" You know, I'm really very, very lucky to be where I'm at, and I don't think that I'm better than anybody. I think I've worked really fucking hard. Yeah.
So what's next? Do you want to build a team?
Next, so I just landed 29 townhomes at 486 in Tennyson. I know you want to talk about that a bit. And then I want to build a team. For the first time, I think I'm in a good place where I feel like a genuine leader. Okay, Instagram handle is LoSasso. So ELOSASSO. I work at the agency Denver. My website is eliselosassoRE.com. Just text me. That's all you gotta know. Just text me. 303-667-3461. 1-800-HOT-BABE. Just kidding.
Every time that I see a limit, what? I push right past it. Don't care if you got here first, the one to win is the last one standing. Say my life is like luck, nah, I had to plan it. The way I work is out of this earth. I can feel the momentum. Need it all, no fractions. Dream it, then I gotta